Hi everyone, this is our first look at voltaic cells. Voltaic cells are a type of electrochemical cell that ends up converting chemical potential energy into an electric current. They use chemicals to make electricity. So examples of these are batteries, different types of fuel cells as well. We have this old saying, Leo says grr, which we can modify ever so slightly into Leo's a jerk. Now we end up with the pronunciation being a little bit different, and that's not how we spell jerk, but that's going to be a really useful little saying, Leo is a jerk, where loss of electrons is oxidation, and this A that we're adding in now stands for anode. Gain of electrons is reduction, and that happens at the cathode. Again, a reminder that it's the strongest reducing agent that gets oxidized, and our new thing is that takes place at a location, which we describe the anode. It's the strongest oxidizing agent that gets reduced, and that happens at the cathode. Oxidation occurs at the anode. It's negatively charged. That's the negative electrode. It's the negative side of the voltaic cell. And reduction takes place at the cathode, which is the positive electrode. Just like how cations are positive and anions are negative, the anode is negative and the cathode is the positive electrode. Other things that we could say is because oxidation happens at the anode, the mass of that electrode is going to be decreasing, and the concentration of ions in solution at the anode increasing. At the cathode, because we have reduction going on, that gain of electrons, we're going to have the concentration of ions in the cathode decreasing, and the mass of the solid electrode actually is going to be going up there. A voltaic cell is composed of two half cells. Just like we have half reactions, now we're going to talk about half cells. These two half cells, they're connected in a couple of different ways. They're connected by a wire to allow the transfer of electrons. And there's also this thing called the SaltBridge. That's like maybe makes you think of table salt or something like that. It's really an ionic solution that is the SaltBridge. We have this notation that we're going to encounter sometimes where the two electrodes, the two solids, are on the outside and two electrolytes on the middle. And this double line here, that represents the SaltBridge. So it would look like this: zinc, solid, zinc ions. See how that matches zinc, solid, zinc ions on one side? That's one half cell. And the other half cell on the other side of the SaltBridge has copper 2 ions and copper solid. This notation, once we get into examples and working through problems, this notation, it's going to operate like our list, like we used when we were predicting redox reactions. It's all the same things that we've been working on before. The strongest reducing agent gets oxidized, the strongest oxidizing agent gets reduced. That whole process of predicting redox reactions is the same. We're just going to build off of it, and the presentation of the questions looks a little bit different as well. Pictures of voltaic cells, they come in two main types. There's more than just two, but two main types. One that has these two beakers, and then this right here is a piece of glassware called a U-tube. That's the SaltBridge. And we have a wire running through a voltmeter. Voltaic cells include a voltmeter because they produce electricity. We want to be able to measure that, so a voltmeter is going to be included in a diagram. Where if this is the notation with solid zinc, this would be a solid piece of zinc. In the solution would be the zinc ions. There's the SaltBridge with some ionic solution in it. We have the copper solid on the outside and the copper ions in this other beaker, the two half cells. A second version of this is what we call a porous cup style of voltaic cell, where this smaller thing here is not a separate beaker, it's a piece of ceramic porous cup. This brings the two solutions into contact with each other, and we don't need a separate SaltBridge. Once the cell is all set up, the SaltBridge is really important for completing the circuit Any anions in the system are going to migrate toward the anode. Any cations in the system are going to migrate towards the cathode. The final thing that we're able to do with a voltaic cell is to determine the voltage. How much electricity is actually going to be generated by one of these electrochemical cells? We have this equation where the net voltage is going to be the electric potential of the cathode subtract the anode. Those two numbers, the cathode and anode number, we're going to pull out of the data booklet. We're going to see that in a following example. So, voltaic cells, the main thing is they produce an electric current. They're batteries. We have this modified version of our saying to help us remember anode and cathode. But the process that we'll go through to figure out the half reactions and figure out the net ionic equation are all the same as what we've done previously. There's extra things going on that we were able to analyze in terms of the voltaic cell once we have all of that information figured out, including we can calculate the voltage. And I hope that helps.